is Brady Rusford Live in the Forbidden Library, and today there's a spreadsheet. Spreadsheet is not the main attraction. Today, the main attraction is the classic book, Treasure Island, by a person whose name I've spelt wrong, even though it's right there on the screen. It was a typo, okay? I didn't spell it wrong, it was a typo. It's fine. Hello everyone, welcome. Hello Noversized Phantom, hello Maxwell, hello Lyra, hello Red Candy Guy, welcome. To you, rum and death should mean the same. I don't want rum and death to mean the same. That sounds very bad. Wow, hello, hee-ho. Bobbert, Lord, Step, Note, Son. Yeah. Yes. We have to keep track of these 10,000 books somehow. So yeah, it's 3D model Sunday. Because we can. I pulled out, we haven't used this adventure outfit for a while, so I thought with this being more of an adventure book, we can get the adventure outfit out. Because I haven't used it in ages, and I wanted to. SCP, yeah, we've read some SCPs. We do those on Patreon and membership streams, so yeah, if you wanna check those out, you gotta become members and Patreons. Hello Metal Wolf 1000, I'm good. I'm excited to add some books. I've read a lot this week, so let's quickly get those added. So our 201th book. I don't know what in particular order I read these in. So I'm just gonna add them as I remember they exist. So we've read two more Red Hood and Arsenals, 6 and 7. So let's just copy those bad boys, throw them in. So that's 202 as well. So that's issue 6 and issue 7. These are comics. And issue 6 is these guys. But issue 7 was a crossover with the Robin War that was happening at the time. You love my avatar, thank you! The outfit was a lovely, it was a subathon goal. I let people pick my outfits for me. This is one of the ones they picked. I think it's a very good choice, to be honest. So I'm very happy with it. Fernandez. So they got a new artist in for that one. This is a series, and I read it this year. So same for the next one. Didn't know Red Hood was a fan of Arsenal FC. Red Hood's best mate is Arsenal FC. Okay, so those two. I'm just going to put them out the way. Behind me. And then I read another Day of the Dead Girl. We got issue 3. So let's put that down there. Issue 3. So that's book 203. That was also a comic. Do I do Q&As? I mean, as long as it's like not too far from what I'm like doing, I will pretty much just answer questions as they come in. Happy to answer what comes in as long as it's not too distracting from what I'm doing, kind of thing. I've never done a formal Q&A though. Maybe I should do that. Because, like I said, because I answer questions as they come, I've never really thought about doing it. I don't think they do chats much either. Probably. No, I don't know. Okay. Go figure those out first. No problem. It's very polite of you, actually. Well done. Oh, Persona. Getting distracted. I needed to pick up my phone because one of the other things I read was I finished one of my webtoons. I finished Charming Duke of the North, which makes me sad because now I never get to look at those beautiful people again. Unless I just want to read it again. Charming Duke of the North. It was a Webtoon. Who is it by? Let me just get the info up so we can give the right respect to the right people. Yes, there we go. I knew it would already be in there. Series, and I read it this year, 2025. And this was chapters 60 to end. It had 91 chapters in the end. So yeah, it is. I mean, so like I said, some of them are SCPs, so they're not that big. A lot of them, so if there's a webtoon in there, my rule of thumb is it has to be at least 20 chapters of a webtoon before I can put it in. So you've got like all of Lore Olympus, Mage and Demon Queen, and all that sort of stuff. Some of them are big books. Pride and Prejudice, we read that on stream. Wuthering Heights, we just finished, so that's why we're going on to Treasure Island now, and we will go on to that soon, I promise. I have one more book I think I need to add now. What happens when we reach 10,000? I don't know. We reach the second arc of Bryony Rose Smith VTubing, I guess. I really don't know. I don't know what happens. I can leave the library forever, I guess. I don't know. It's a bit scary to think about, really. I don't know how my life will change then. So I've gotten back into audiobooks. And then I absolutely devoured one this week. Let me just... I was a little bit... I think I was about halfway through it anyway. I just need to find it. I need to British code. I think... With This Ring. There we go. It was called With This Ring. Very specifically, this was a series I'd been into a while ago. I just hadn't really caught up with it for a while. I would like to... It was Imp Book 11. The 11th in a series, so it was a series. There's only one more book in that series and I'm up to date. Can I kidnap you? I mean, when I leave the library, I'll need somewhere to go. I could go to the Northern Dominion. That would work. I could go be full-time assistant in the Northern Dominion. One second, I just realized I'm missing the Twitch chat. I can't see the Twitch chat. There we go. Let me check out that. Yeah. I can see the Twitch chat now. Wonderful. Sorry, Twitch. Not that that was really anyone there. It wasn't, but yeah. So that's by a wonderful lady called Deborah Dunbar, I believe. Yeah, Deborah Dunbar. Sunbar? No, yeah, I put Sunbar. No, Dunbar, Deborah Dunbar. Very fun series. The characters developed so much. I forgot that, series. And I also read that in 2025. So we read 5 books this week. Good lord, that's quite a few. So our Books Until Freedom now goes down to 9,795, I believe, if I have my numbers correct. Yes, I do. Wonderful. Now, just thinking, is that definitely everything I read? I believe so. Right, we can go on to the book now. Close the spreadsheet. What? Oh, thank you so much, Metal Wolf. I love your content. I've been trying to get into reading lately. If you could shrink any person down to pocket size, who would I shrink? Oh my gosh. Can I shrink? Am I able to unshrink them at any given point? Because that changes the outcome. Because if I could shrink anyone to pocket size, I would shrink my fiancé. Because then I could put him in my pocket and I could keep him with me at all times and it would be wonderful. I would have my emotional support fiancé with me at all times. It would be glorious. I'm not pocket size. Do we have music on? Good, we do. Wonderful. Just wanted to check. Anything goes. Okay, yeah. So if I can unshrink him at any point, yeah, I would shrink my fiance so he can come with me all the time. Portable fiance. Not that he's not already portable, because he has legs. He has legs and can use them. But then I could put him in my hands, and then I could just hold him. It would be so good. It would be so nice. You'd bite me? Well, good thing I didn't say you then, maiden. That's fine. My brain went straight to fictional characters because I have a small shrine on my desk to Toshiro Hitsugai from Bleach. So that would... But then I've already shrunk him down to pocket size by making it a little crochet doll of him, so he's already pocket sized. You would shrink your mum! Pocket mum be cute! Oh my god, yes! Oh, that would be so cute. You could bring your mum everywhere. My mum would be so happy about that too. She can't really get around as well as she used to do, kind of thing. She'd be so happy to see more. That's a genius idea, Metal Wolf. We can go let our mums see the world more. But should we see the world more? Should we see the treasure island? I picked this because obviously we finished Wuthering Heights recently, and I wanted to pick something a little bit shorter because I do want to see if I can track down some indies at some point. I'm gonna go hunting for indie characters. A super tiny voice would be hilarious. Metal Wolf! It'd be really high, wouldn't it? Metal Wolf! Can we go get a cup of tea, please? I don't know what your mum's like, I'm just guessing. Metal Wolf, your pocket has random crap in it. This is not very comfortable. Please put more tissues in there for me to be comfortable. Pocket mum, good old times. An emotional support. No one needs. There is no emotional support to be found in Heathcliff. Heathcliff is not. Heathcliff would be great if you had a bone to pick with someone. Angry emotional support. Heathcliff could be. Did you ever see those skits about like Obama's anger translator? That's Heathcliff. That's the emotional support that Heathcliff can provide. Heathcliff is the one that needs emotional support. Yes. Yes, he is. He is so very unstable. But, anyway. It's Treasure Island time! Like I said, I picked this because it's short, so I can have some time to maybe hunt down some other indie authors and try get permission to read their book, because I haven't read an indie other than a preview. Most of them want me to read previews, which is fair. They don't want me to read their entire books. Most of them don't. But I would like to track down an indie book that we can read from start to finish. And if worst comes to worst, we could always read my sequel, because I've only ever read my first book on stream. We could read the sequel to Moon Girl, and I could just fill you in on stuff as we go. From the writer of The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Are there specific genres you read? I mean, as long as it's fiction, I don't really mind too much. I'm not really one for non-fiction. Unless it's a particular thing I'm interested. Like, I've read a bit about, like, medieval stuff. Moon Girl 2 Director's Cut. Yeah. So, like, if I don't track someone down who is willing to let me read their entire book, not just a preview, then maybe we can read a wee bit of my own books. That could also get me into... Also... That also could motivate me to get me back into writing a bit more. I need to do it. I've been cheating, and well, no, I'm not cheating. I've just been really busy. There's so many things I want to do. If I read you non-fiction, would you listen? It depends. Fiction, anything else? Exactly. It's more fun. I tend to like things that are more fantasy and sci-fi. If it's a little too, I don't know, mundane, I guess I'm not as interested. I want it to be more fantastical, or at least historical. Moon Girl 3, Moons of Patrons. No. You got Moon Girl 1, Moonrise. Moon Girl 2, Bell Toll. Moon Girl 3, Guillotine. Moon Girl 4 Rift, Moon Girl 5 Camelot. I think. It's been a while. Yeah, 5 books so far, and we only got up to Camelot. Then Moon Girl 6. Do I know what Moon Girl 6 is called, even though it's not released? Moon Girl 6 is called Age of Heroes. How many of you wrote? So I've written 6 technically, but 6 isn't out yet because it still needs to be edited, and I've kind of just left it to gather dust for a while because I've just been busy with a lot of other projects. But 5 have been published so far, and the series should be 8 books long. So I only have 2 more books to write until the series is done. But that's a different problem. Today's problem is pirates! Arr, me and my teas and all that. Girl, I only have the preview of the first one. I'm so lost, don't worry. Moon Girl 6 is your Winds of Winter. It kind of is. It kind of is. I'm so stuck. But we'll get unstuck one day, and Andrea's story will be finished. I don't want to leave it. I want it to be finished. I know how it's... There's notes on my wall behind me that have been stuck there for years. That is the plot. Plot of book 7 specifically. I'm gonna buy Moon Girl then and ask you to sign it. Go for it! Go for it! I will sign. You can buy signed copies on my website. I will sign them for you when I send them to you. You just have to tell me what you want signed. But anyway, it's a book. It's a book from Project Gutenberg. A wonderful place to get free classic books. So check it out and support it. And we have wonderful illustrations by Lewis Reed. Rad. There's a H in there and I don't know what to do with it. So there we go. That's spoopy. That's a spoopy. So part 1, the old buccaneer. Part 2, sea cook. Part 3, my shore adventure. Part 4, stockade. Part 5, my sea adventure. And part 6, Captain Silver. We're gonna have to... Notes, you either get spoiled in my by handcam streams. No, it's a little bit out of frame. You'd never see them. I mean, you could, but good luck reading my handwriting from that far away too. Not Bristol. Oh, well, this is just a list of illustrations. That's okay. So this is an author note. An American gentleman in accordance with those classic tastes. The following narrative has been designed. It is now in return for numerous delightful hours with the kindest wishes dedicated by his affectionate friend. To the hesitating purchaser. If sailor tales to sailor tunes, storm and adventure, hearts, heat and cold, if schooners island and maroons, and buccaneers and buried gold, and all the old romance retold, exactly in the ancient way, can please as me they pleased of old, the wiser youngsters today. So be it, and fall on, if not, if studious youth no longer crave his ancient appetites forgotten, King Stall or Bantley the brave, or Copper of the wood and wave. So be it, and may I and all my pirates share the grave, where these and their creations lie. We got a map! It's always a good book if you had a map. You like a map. Look, map. So this is the famous Treasure Island. I'd like to say it looks like something, but it kind of doesn't. So there's like an extra island here on Treasure Island. There's like and a little peninsula kind of thing. Treasure Island, Part 1, The Old Buccaneer. Right, before we start, I'm just gonna drink my tea. Home of the first Tesco. It is truly a treasure, is not Tesco's not a treasure. Tesco's not a treasure. Going with me stide. Right. Once upon a time, when I was a young girl, £1 in every 7 was spent in Tesco. Actual facts. I also do like maps because you're right. They help with immersion. They give you a good idea of like how big places are. It's nice. Okay, let's get down to business. Chapter 1. The Old Sea Dog at Admiral Benbow. Benbow. Sounds like bimbo. Squire Trelawney, Dr. Livesley, and the rest of these gentlemen, having asked me to write down the whole particulars about Treasure Island, from the beginning to the end, keeping nothing back but the bearings of the island, and that only because there is still treasure not yet lifted, I take up my pen in the year of grace 17 and go back to the time when my father kept the Admiral Benbow Inn, and the old seaman with the sabre cut first took up his lodging under our roof. This is very interesting. This is second time in a row where a lot of the story is going to be retold by someone else, because obviously most of Wuthering Heights was told to us by Nellie. Sorry, I'm messing with my hair. So this is going to be told to us by a guy who heard it in his inn. I remember him as if it were yesterday, as he came plodding to the inn door, his sea chest following behind him in a hand barrow, a tall, strong, heavy, nut-brown man, his tarry pigtail falling over the shoulder of his soiled blue coat, his hands ragged and scarred, with black broken nails and the sabre cut across one cheek, a dirty livid white. I remember him looking round the cove and whistling to himself as he did so, and then breaking out in that old sea song that he sang so often afterwards. 50 men on the dead man's chest, yo ho ho, and a bottle of rum. In the high old tottering voice that seemed to have been tuned and broken at the capstan bars. Then he rapped on the door with a bit of stick like a handspike, and he carried. And when my father appeared, called roughly for a glass of rum. This, when it was brought to him, he drank slowly like a connoisseur, lingering on the taste and still looking about him at the cliffs and up at our signboard. "This is a handy cove," says he at length, "and a pleasant statiegated grog shop. Much company, mate?" My father told him no, very little company. The more was the pity. "Well then," he said, "this is the berth for me. Here, ye matey," he cried to the man who trundled the barrow. "Bring up alongside and help up my chest. I'll stay here a bit," he continued. "I'm a plain man. Rum and bacon and eggs is all I want, and that head up there to watch the ships off. What, you mort call me? You mort call me captain. Oh, I see what you're at. There." And he threw down 3 or 4 gold pieces on the threshold. You can call me when I've worked through that, says he, looking as fierce as a commander. I just remember Billy Connolly played this character in the Muppets movie. Oh, when I told my fiance I was reading this, his first reaction was, try not to imagine them all as Muppets. And I'm like, no. They're Muppets. What do you want about? Lives imagined. And indeed, bad as his clothes were, and coarsely as he spoke, he had none of the appearance of a man who sailed before the mast, but seemed like a mate or skipper accustomed to be obeyed or to strike. The man who came with the barrow told us the mail had sent him down the morning before at the Royal George, that he had inquired what inns there were along the coast, and hearing ours well spoken of, I suppose, and described as lonely, and chose it from the others for his place of residence. And that was all we could learn of our guest. He was a very silent man by custom. All day he hung round the cover or upon the cliffs with a brass telescope. All evening he sat in a corner of the parlour next to the fire and drank rum and water very strong. Mostly he would not speak when spoken to, only look up sudden and fierce and blow through his nose like a foghorn. And we, and the people who came about our house, soon learned to let him be. Every day he came back from his stroll, he would ask if any seafaring men had gone along the road. At first we thought it was the want of company of his own kind that made him ask his question, but at last we began to see he was desirous to avoid them. When a seaman did put up at the Admiral Benbow, as now and then some did, making by the coast road for Bristol, he would look in at him through the curtained door before he entered the parlour, and he was always sure to be as silent as a mouse when any such was present. For me, at least, there was no secret about the matter, for I was, in a way, a sharer of his alarms. He had taken me aside one day and promised me a silver fourpenny on the first of every month if I would only keep my weather eye open for any seafaring man with one leg. What does that mean? And let him know the moment he appeared. Often, though, when the first of the month came around, and I applied to him for my wage, he would only blow through his nose at me and stare me down, but before the week was out, he would sure to think better of it, bring me my fourpenny piece, and repeat his orders to look out for the seafaring man with one leg. How that personage haunted my dreams, I need scarcely tell you. On stormy nights, when the wind shook the four corners of the house, and the surf roared along the cove and the cliffs, I would see him in 1,000 forms, and with 1,000 diabolical expressions. Now the leg would be cut off at the knee, now at the hip. Now he was a monstrous kind of creature, who had never had but the one leg, and that in the middle of his body. To see him leap, "Hi Boris, welcome, it's pirate time," and run and pursue me over hedge and ditch was the worst of nightmares, and altogether I paid petty dear for my monthly fourpenny piece, in the shape of these abominable fancies. But though I was so terrified by the idea of the seafaring man with one leg, I was far less afraid of the captain himself than anybody else who knew him. There were nights when he took a deal more rum and water than his head would carry, and then he would sometimes sit and sing wicked old wild sea songs, minding nobody. But sometimes he would call for glasses round and force all the trembling company to listen to his stories or bear a chorus to his singing. Often I have heard the house shaking with "Yo ho ho" and a bottle of rum. All the neighbours joining in for dear life. You better join in with the drunken sailor, you better join in with the drunken sailor, you better join in with the drunken sailor, I don't know why he's scary. Nothing scarier than a man with one leg just hopping menacingly, never losing his balance. He just hop and hop and hop. Oh god, I just thought of some scary stories I got told when I was younger. Oh no! It was really stupid. So, oh my god, story time. Story time for my youth. I went over to sleep at a friend's house. Their older sister had someone sleeping over as well, and they told some scary stories about a mum who, like, accidentally chopped off their child's leg. I don't even know. It sounds so stupid now I say it. It really does. And I don't know why this got to me so badly when I was younger. But then, like, she went to bed and it looked like her daughter could get around okay. And then the knife went missing, and then she'd hear her daughter go, "Mommy, I'm on the first step. You cut my leg off. I'm gonna kill you." Oh my god, I don't know why that freaked me the fuck out as a kid. And it was just being told to me at God knows what time in the morning while I was in this house that this house they lived in was overgrown, and it was actually like they had to move because it wasn't like fit for life. I think it's still boarded up now, that house. It was crazy. So yeah, the house wasn't great. It was overgrown, it was windy and horrible and noisy, and it was really creepy, and they were having so much fun just scaring the shit out of me and my friend. It wasn't good. Anyway, fun story time for you. Imagine a crusty old sea captain sitting by a fireplace, drunkenly sitting Panic at the Disco. So I say to Mother Cat, yes, kinda. Just got back from the seas, raiding a grocery ship. Secured me some hearty meat spreads and veggies, and the elixir of juice for the week. Very good, Boris. What a wonderful haul from the treasure grocery island. Okay. Back to the book. After dumping my trauma on you. That wasn't even... Sorry, it's carrying on. Oh no. That wasn't even, like, the only story that was like that. There was also one about, like, a doll in a similar situation. Just a creepy doll kind of doing the same, where, like, the owner had, like, gotten a limb off them somehow. And they started singing while they slowly went up the stairs. And it was awful. Anyway. Nor would anyone allow him to leave. Where was I up to? Yo-ho-ho and a bottle of rum. Oh yeah, because they were like, all the neighbours joining for dear life, with fear of death upon them, and each singing louder than the other to avoid remark. Sounds great. I would have loved it now. For in these fits he was the most overriding companion ever known. He would slap his hand on the table for silence all round. He would fly up in a passion of anger and at a question, or sometimes because none was put. So he judged the company was not following his story, nor would he allow anyone to leave the inn till he had drunk himself sleepy and reeled off to bed. Sounds like someone needs to go to the AA. My name is Captain and I'm an alcoholic. His stories were what frightened people worst of all. Dreadful stories they were, about hanging and walking the plank and storms at sea, and the dry Tortugas. Tortuga? You mean the place in... I've been there. I've been to the real Tortuga. It's not called Tortuga anymore, but it does pretty good rum cake. And wild deeds and places on the Spanish Main. By his own account, he must have lived his life among some of the wickedest men that God ever allowed upon the sea, and the language in which he told these stories shocked our plain country people almost as much as the crimes that he described. My father was always saying the inn would be ruined, for people would soon cease coming there to be tyrannized over and put down and sent shivering to their beds. But I really believe his presence did us good. People were frightened at the time, but on looking back, they rather liked it. It was a fine entertainment in a quiet country life, and there was even a party of the younger men who pretended to admire him, calling him a true sea dog, and a real old salt, and such like names, and saying there was the sort of man that made England terrible at sea. To seeing Willem Dafoe's character in The Lighthouse. Oh no, not the League players. Oh my god. I started a new webtoon. Sorry, you've just reminded me. I'm getting distracted. I'm very easily distracted today. It's tangent day! I just started a webtoon called Teenage Mercenary. And it's about, you ever seen Arrow? It's kind of like that, but he's a teenager, and so he got some the military that took him in gave him some training on what's cool with the kids these days, and one of them was League. They called it Legends of Leagues. In one way, indeed, he bade fair to ruin us, for he kept on staying week after week. Brady picks a story, so it won't take long. Also, 5 hours of tangents. Yeah! Tangents are the best, though. And at last, a month after month, so that all the money had been long exhausted, and still my father never plucked up the heart to insist on having more. If ever he mentioned it, the captain blew through his nose so loudly that you might say he roared, and stared my poor father out of the room. I have seen him wringing his hands after such a rebuff, and I am sure the annoyance and the terror he lived in must have greatly hastened his early and unhappy death. Does all of the briny tangents add up to count as a book? I'm not reading, though, is the problem. If I wrote them down, maybe, and then we could publish a book of briny tangents. I think the last one was Tales of a Trapped Author. We could write all the tangents down, and they could be tangents of the trapped author. All the time he lived with us, the captain made no change whatsoever to his dress, but to buy some stockings from a hawker. One of the cocks of his hat having fallen down, he let it hang from that day forth. Oh my god, he just let his cock hang from that day forth. I could not. Though it was a great annoyance when it blew. I am mature, yes. I remember the appearance of his coat, which he patched himself, upstairs in his room, which, before the end, was nothing but patches. He never wrote or received a letter, and he never spoke with any but the neighbours, and with these, for the most part, only when drunk on rum, the great sea chest none of us had ever seen open. Stole my joke too. He was only once crossed, and that was towards the end, when my poor father was gone in a decline that took him off. Dr. Livesley came late one afternoon to see the patient, took a bit of dinner from my mother, and went into the parlour to smoke a pipe until his horse could come down from the hamlet, for we had no stabling at the old Benbow. The Benbow. I followed him in, and I remember observing the contrast, the neat, bright doctor, with his powder as white as snow, and his bright black eyes. Question? Livesley, I'm glad you're excited to see Livesley. Again, this isn't one I've read where I just know a lot about it. Livesy? It could be Livesy. I don't know if that is the way. That's the way I'm reading it. I wouldn't take my word as law for this. But I would, Livesy, 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 Loosey, Snoozy, Susie. His bright black eyes and pleasant manners made with the coltish country folk, and above all with that filthy, heavy-bearded scarecrow of a pirate of ours, sitting far gone in rum with his arms on the table. Suddenly he, the captain that is, began to pipe his eternal song. Oh, okay, totally didn't take your word as law for the past year and a half. Oh lordy, don't do that. Don't do that. I don't know what I'm doing. 15 men on the dead man's chest. Yo ho ho, and a bottle of rum. Drink and the devil has done for the rest. Yo ho ho, and a bottle of rum. Thanks to Soviet-era cartoons, I can only see Livesley as a perpetual smile mountain of a man. Fair. At first I had supposed the dead man's chest to be that identical big box of his upstairs in the front room. That's it, yeah! Welcome to Lecture Bob. We have a book that requires some pirate singing. It's wonderful. Same fan of my image was cemented from that adaptation. At first I had supposed the dead man's chest to be that identical big box of his upstairs in the front room, and the thought had been mingled in my nightmares with that of the one-legged seafaring man. But by this time we had all long ceased to pay any particular notice to the song. It was new that night to nobody but Mr. Livesley, and on him I observed it did not produce an Now that you've mentioned pronunciation issues, I'm gonna go get Google to say it out loud, and then maybe we'll tell. Google Translate out. Throw that out there. Livesy. Yeah, I'm saying it wrong. Livesy. Yeah, okay. I've been saying it wrong anyway. Not far off Livesy. We got it. Dr. Livesy. And on him I observed it did not produce any agreeable effect, for he looked up for a moment quite angrily before he went on with his talk to old Taylor, the gardener, on the new cure for the rheumatics. In the meantime, the sea captain gradually brightened up at his own music, and at last flapped his head upon the table before him in a way we all knew to mean silence. I've been saying it livesy in my head, so I'm further up. We got there in the end. Livesy. At last flapped his hand on the table before him in a way we all knew to mean silence. The voices stopped at once, all but Dr. Livesy's. He went on as before, speaking clear and kind, and drawing briskly at his pipe between every word or two. The captain glared at him for a while, flapped his hand again, glared still harder, and at last broke out with a villainous low oath. "Silence there between decks!" Were you addressing me, sir? Says the doctor, and when the ruffian had told him, with another oath, that this was so, I have only one thing to say to you, sir, replies the doctor, that if you keep on drinking rum, the world will soon be quit of a very dirty scoundrel. Damn. The old fellow's fury was awful. He sprang to his feet, drew and opened a sailor's clasp knife, and balancing it open on the palm of his hand, threatened to pin the doctor to the wall. The doctor never so much as moved. He spoke to him as before. Over his shoulder and in the same tone, rather highly, so that all the room might hear, but perfectly calm and steady. If you do not put that knife this instant in your pocket, I promise, upon my honour, you shall hang at the next assize. Illustrations are fun. And then followed a battle of looks between them. But the captain soon knuckled under, put his weapon, and resumed his seat, grumbling like a beaten dog. My word, scoundrel, get down. And now, sir, continued the doctor, since I now know there's such a fellow in my district, you may count I'll have an eye upon you day and night. I'm not a doctor only, I'm a magistrate. And if I catch a breath of complaint against you, if it's only for a piece of incivility like tonight, I'll take effectual means to have you hunted down and routed out of this. Let that suffice. Soon after, Dr. Livesy's horse came to the door, and he rode away, but the captain held his peace that evening, and for many evenings to come. None can stand up to the power of Dr. Chadsey. I know he's a doctor and a magistrate. That's quite impressive. Oh my. Has there been a murder? Black dog appears and disappears. It was not very long after this that there occurred the first of the mysterious events that rid us at last of the captain, though not, as you will see, of his affairs. It was a bitter, cold winter, with long, hard frosts and heavy gales, and it was as plain from the first that my poor father was little likely to see the spring. He sank daily, and my mother and I had all the inn upon our hands, and were kept busy enough without paying much regard to our unpleasant guest. It was one January morning, very early, a pinching, frosty morning, the cove all grey with frost. The ripple lapping softly on the shores, the sun still low and only touching the hilltops, and shining far to seaward. The captain had risen earlier than usual, and set down the beach, his cutlass swinging under his broad skirts of the old blue coat, his brass telescope under his arm, his hat tilted back upon his head. I remembered his breathing hanging like smoke in the wake as he strode off, and the last sound I heard of him as he turned the big rock was a loud snort of indignation, as though his mind was still running upon Dr. Livesey. Well, Mother was upstairs with Father, and I was laying the breakfast table against the captain's return, when the parlour doors opened and a man stepped in, whom I never set my eyes before. He was a pale, tawny fellow, wanting 2 fingers of the left hand, and though he wore a cutlass, he did not look much like a fighter. I had always my eye open for seafaring men with 1 or 2 legs, and I remember this one puzzled me. He was not sailorly, yet he had a smack of the sea about him too. I asked him what was for his service, and he said he would take rum. But as I was going out of the room to fetch it, he sat down upon a table and motioned me to draw near. I paused where I was, with my napkin in my hand. "Come here, sonny," says he. "Come nearer, here." I took a step nearer. "Is this here table for my mate Bill?" he asked with a kind of leer. I told him I did not know his mate Bill, and this was for a person who stayed in our house, whom we called the captain. "Well," said he, "my mate Bill would be called a captain, as like as not. And he has a cut on 1 cheek, and a mighty pleasant way with him, particularly in drink, as my mate Bill. Well, he'll put it, for argument like, that your captain has a cut on 1 cheek, and we'll put it, if you like, that cheek's on the right one. Eh? Well, I told you. Now, is my mate Bill here in this house?" I told him he was out walking. "Which way, sonny? Which way is he gone?" And when I pointed out the rock and told him how the captain was likely to return, and how soon, and answered a few questions, "Ah," said he, "this'll be as good as drink to my mate Bill. Captain, my captain." That's how I talk. Oh shit. Real voice reveal. Blood chips, hydrate. I will. Also welcome. The expression of his face as he said these words was not at all pleasant, and I had my own reasons for thinking that the stranger was mistaken, even supposing he meant what he said. But it was no affair of mine, I thought, and besides, it was difficult to know what to do. The stranger kept hanging about just inside the inn. "Can you read with a posher accent?" I mean, I'm not reading the pirate bits with a posher accent. That's illegal. We have to try pirate accents for pirate bits, but we can try the rest for a posher accent. A door peering round the corner like a cat waiting for a mouse. Once I stepped out myself onto the road, but he immediately called me back, and I did not obey quick enough for his fancy. A most horrible change came over his tallowy face, and he ordered me in with an oath that made me jump. As soon as I was back again, he returned to his former manner, half fawning, half sneering, patted me on the shoulder, told me I was a good boy, and he had taken quite a fancy to me. Read the pirate sections of the Cockney accent. I can't do Cockney. Nah. We're doing pirate sections with pirate accents. "I have a son of my own," said he. This is something I like really stumble upon every time, because we don't do it in that order anymore. We always say said he. Why? It confuses my brain so much. I can't do accents that well, Blow Chips. I can try, but I can't. You're lucky to get any kind of accent out of me. "As like you has 2 blocks, and he's all the pride of my heart. But the great thing for boys is discipline, sonny, discipline. Now, if you had sailed along with Bill, you wouldn't have stood there to be spoke to twice, not you. That was never Bill's way, nor the way of sich as sailed with him. And here, sure enough, is my mate Bill, with a spyglass under his arm, bless his old heart. To be sure, you and me'll just go back into the parlour, sonny, and get behind the door, and we'll give Bill a little old surprise. Bless his heart, I say again, bless his heart. America always depicts villains with British accent, do the switcheroo. From what I can tell, I think these sailors are British, so... But this whole book is British. Does that make everyone... If everyone in the book is British, does that make everyone the villain? Say! I know. Just said she. Shoved bars now! She said, not said she! So saying, the stranger backed along with me into the parlour, and put me behind him in the corner, so we were both hidden by the open door. Twist is they're all Canadian. When I grew up, all the villains were German. Yeah, I remember that. Now they're all British. Why are we getting... We haven't done a fascist thing in a while. Kinda. Maybe. No British now. I don't know why. Well, we kind of deserve it, to be fair. Now I think about it, we kind of deserve to get bullied. Let's face it. We are kind of the villain in a lot of histories in the world. We deserve to be bullied. I was very uneasy and alarmed, as you may fancy, and it rather added to my fears to observe that the stranger was certainly frightened himself. He was cleared to the hilt of his cutlass and loosened the blade into the sheath. And loosened the blade in the sheath. Yeah, okay, so he just pulled it out slightly. Got it. Yeah, but imagine a big threatening villain with a Scouse accent. I mean, that's a thing that happens. Scousers... It would just mean they come across a bit chavvy is all. I would like a big threatening villain with a Welsh accent, because Welsh accent kind of just sounds soft. So, got the Welshies, they just sound a little soft. And my Welsh kind of sounds a bit Irish sometimes. Scouse Darth Vader. Darth Vader bunnies Rob Prime. And all the time we were waiting there, he kept swallowing as if he felt what we used to call a lump in the throat. Used to call? We still call it that! I guess a lump in your throat. Maybe that went out of fashion at this point as a phrase, and then we brought it back? Fascinating! At last, in strode the captain, slammed the door behind him without looking to the right or left, and marched straight across the room to where his breakfast awaited. Give them to Minnesotan accent, which is decently similar to Swedish. Ah, interesting. We still do, but we used to. Bill, said the stranger in a voice that I thought he had tried to make big, bold and big. The captain spun round on his heel and fronted us. All the brown had gone out of his face, and even his nose was blue. He had the look of a man who sees a ghost or the evil one, or something worse, if anything can be. And upon my word, I felt sorry to see him all in a moment turn so old and sick. Come, Bill, you know me. You know an old shipmate. Bill, surely, said the stranger. The captain made a sort of gasp. Black dog, said he. And who else, returned the other, greeting more at ease. Black dog as ever was. come for to see his old shipmate Billy at the Admiral Benbow. Ah, Bill, we have seen a sight of times, us two, since I lost them 2 talons, holding up his mutilated hand. Now look here, said the captain. You've run me down. There I am. Well, then, speak up. What is it? That's you, Bill, returned Black Dog. You're in the right of it, Billy. I'll have a glass of rum from this dear child here, and I've took such a liking to, and we'll sit down, if you please, and talk square like old shipmates. When I returned with the rum, they were already seated on either side of the captain's breakfast table, Black Dog next to the door and sitting sideways, so as to have one eye on his old shipmate and one, as I thought, on his retreat. He bade me go and leave the door wide open. None of your keyholes for me, sonny, he said, and I left them together and retired to into the bar. For a long time, though I certainly did my best to listen, I could hear nothing but a low gurgling. But at last the voices began to grow higher, and I could pick up a word or two, mostly oaths from the captain. No, and an end of it, he cried once again and again. If it comes to swinging, swing all, I say. We're gonna have to be good on that hydration for these voices. Oh lordy! Okay, so that one's Black Dog because of the fingers here. That's Black Dog. This is the captain because of his big blue coat. That's terrifying, not coloured in. His eyes are just blank. That's scary, very scary. The next instance, I saw the Black Dog in a full fight. Fight. Then all of a sudden, there was a tremendous explosion of oaths and other... The use of the word oaths in here is interesting. I don't think we've had a book that has described things this way. I can only assume they're saying oaths because it's something like... You know when characters are desperate and they're like, I swear to God I didn't! Or, I swear on my mother's life! I think that's what it means by oaths. But that's... Oaths just means swearing? It just means swearing? Ah, I've never known that. We have learned some history language today. Lots of blooming swearing. Something I need to get better at. One second. I should open something. Okay. Then all of a sudden there was a tremendous explosion of oaths and other noises. The chair and table went over in a lump. A clash of steel followed, and then a cry of pain. And the next instant I saw Black Dog in a full fight, and the captain hotly pursuing, both with drawn cutlass, and the former streaming blood from the left shoulder. Just at the door, the captain aimed at the fugitive one last tremendous cut, which would certainly have split him to the chine, had it not been intercepted by our big signboard of the Admiral Benbow. You may see the notch on the lower side of the frame to this day. And this is why apparently streams should be added to school curriculums. Because we learn things. This is kind of one of the best bits about reading classics like this. Is you just, I don't know, you learn stuff about language. And language is forever changing and weird, and I love it. I love that we get new silly words every year added to the thing because memes have just gone so out of control that we've invented new language. It's wonderful! It's exciting. That bow was the last of the battle. Once upon the road, Black Dog, in spite of his wound, showed a wonderful clean pair of heels and disappeared over the edge of the hill in half a minute. a clean pair of heels. Oh, I love that. Despite his wounds, he ran fast. Brave Sir Robin ran away. The captain, for his part, stood staring at the signboard like a bewildered man. Then he passed his hand over his eyes several times, and at last turned back into the house. "Jim!" says he. "Rum!" And as he spoke, he reeled a little, and caught himself with one hand against the wall. Are you hurt?" cried I. "Rum!" he repeated. "I must get away from here. Rum! Rum!" I ran to fetch it, but I was quite unsteadied by all that had fallen out, and I broke one glass and fouled at the tap. And while I was still getting in my own way, I heard a loud fall in the parlour, and running in beheld the captain lying full length upon the floor. At the same instant, my mother, alarmed by the cries and fighting, came running downstairs to help me. Between us we raised his head. He was breathing very loud and hard, but his eyes were closed, and his face a horrible colour. "Dearie me!" cried my mother. "What a disgrace upon the house! And your poor father sick!" In the meantime, we had no idea what to do to help the captain, nor any other thought but that he had got his death hurt in the scuffle with the stranger. I got the rum, to be sure, and tried to put it down his throat, but his teeth were tightly shut, and his jaws as strong as iron. It was a happy relief for us when the door opened, and Dr. Livesey came in on his visit to my father. "Oh, doctor," we cried, "what shall we do? Where is he wounded?" "Wounded? A fiddlestick's end," said the doctor. "No more wounded than you or I. The man has had a stroke, as I warned him. Now, Mrs. Hawkins, just you run upstairs to your husband and tell him, if possible, nothing about it. For my part, I must do my best to save this fellow's Trelby worthless life. Jim Hawkins from Treasure Planet," that obviously was based off this book, but Jim Hawkins from Treasure Planet. "You get me a basin." Loki, I kind of forgot that Treasure Planet. Apologies, Maxwell. Rose color does not work with my 3D model, but posture check does. I'm sitting okay. I do need to shrimp slightly less. I need to get, like, you know, the pillows on the back of your chair that you can get that help with your posture a little bit. Because I'm as close to my desk as I can get, but I can't get my back to the table, to the back of the chair, so my back doesn't stay straight. Old lady problems. Anyway. When I got back with the basin, the doctor had already ripped up the captain's sleeve and exposed his grey, sinewy arm. It was tattooed in several places. Here's luck, a fair wind, and Billy Bones his fancy were very neatly and clearly executed on the forearm, and up near the shoulder there was a sketch of a gallows and a man hanging from it, done, as I thought, with great spirit. "Prophetic," said the doctor, touching this picture with his finger. "And now, Master Billy Bones, if that be your name, we'll have a look at the colour of your blood. Jim," said he. I got mixed up because I thought he said he. Ugh, it swaps. I can't get used to it. Learning new words just to throw them in the face of family, friends, and colleagues is nice. You should maybe do an old English insults, swear words, and meme-worthy stuff stream. Oh, that would be fun. And I'll write that down. I did want to do like an etymology sort of stream, but I've had some hard times researching it. I also wanted to just do a stream where we list all the shit Shakespeare made up, because Shakespeare made up so many words, which you maybe didn't make up. I was researching that a little bit, and fun fact, some of the words that maybe were written down by Shakespeare, and we account to Shakespeare, might have just been a lot of slang that was used in that time, rather than just, but we just didn't have any real record of that kind of slang. But we do have, obviously, official written plays that maybe use that slang. So he might not have made up all of these words himself. They might have been used, just not written down. Start calling your colleagues beef-whittled Applejack. Old English insults and meme stream. We could make a load of old English memes and just spam them across the internet and to see if anyone picks up on it. We'll make a whole collection on the Discord for people to use in various times. Anya! Nyan Raid! Detective Raid! Welcome to the reading stream. We just talked about an interesting stream idea. I started using Gobbermarch with my English colleagues. Gobbermarch. That sounds bad. No, we definitely should do that. I am enjoying myself. A man might have just died, though, so good timing. Thank you for the wait. Where we go? What are we doing? Are you afraid of blood, sir? No, sir, said I. Well then, said he, hold the basin. And with that, he took his lancet and opened a vein. A great deal of blood was taken before the captain opened his eyes and looked mistily about him. First, he recognized the doctor with an unmistakable frown. Then his glance fell upon me, and he looked relieved. But suddenly, his colour changed, and he tried to raise himself, crying, "Where's Black Dog?" "There is no black dog here," said the doctor, "except what you have on your own back. And you have been drinking rum. You have had a stroke, precisely as I told you, and I have just, very much against my own will, dragged you head foremost out of the grave. Now, Mr. Bones—" "That's not my name," he interrupted. Much I care," returned the doctor. "It's time. It's the name of a buccaneer of my acquaintance, and I call you by it for the sake of shortness. And what I have to say to you is this. One glass of rum won't kill you, but if you take one, you'll take another and another. And I stake my wig, if you won't break off short, you'll die. Do you understand that? Die, and go to your own place, like the man in the Bible. Come, now, make an effort. I'll help you to your bed for once." "Ah, thank you, Max. That's very kind of you to say." "I am cute. Ha." Between us, with much trouble, we managed to hoist him upstairs and laid him on his bed, where his head fell back on the pillow, as if he were almost fainting. "Now, mind you," said the doctor, "I clear my conscience. The name of rum for you is death." Oh, well, that's got to be the worst thing in the world for a pirate to just be told, "If you drink more rum, you'll die. How are you supposed to be a pirate if you can't drink rum?" And with that, he went off to see my father, taking me with him by the arm. "This is nothing," he said as soon as he had closed the door. "I have drawn blood enough to keep him quiet a while. He should lie for a week where he is. That is the best thing for him and you, but another stroke would settle him." If you'd like to kill him, by all means, give him rum. That basically limited 3 of their 4 food groups. Exactly! And they have enough issues with, drinking and eating well on the seas. That's why scurvy is off. The black spot! Oh, yeah. Dramatic. What is the origins of the black spot? We find out today. About noon, I stopped at the captain's door with some cooling drinks and medicines. He was lying very much as we had left him, only a little higher, and he seemed both weak and excited. "Jim," he said, "you're the only one here that's worth anything, you know. And I've been always, and you know I've always been good to you. Never a month, but I've given you a silver fourpenny for yourself. And now, you see, mate, I'm pretty low, and deserted by all. And Jim, you'll bring me one noggin of rum now, won't you, matey?" The doctor?" I began, but he broke in cursing the doctor, and a feeble voice, but heartily, Doctor is all swabs," he said. "And that doctor there, why, what do he know about seafaring men? I've been places hot as pitch, and mates dropping round with Yellow Jack, and the blessed land a heaving like the sea with earthquakes. What do the doctor know of lands like that? And I lived on rum, I tell you. It's been meat and drink and man and wife to me. And if I'm not to have my rum now, I'm a poor old hulk on Lee's shore. My blood'll be on you, Jim, and that Dr. Swab." And he ran on again for a while with curses, and I need to quickly drink. Yellow Jack seems to yellow fever. That makes sense. Why is the rum gone? Because you'll die if you drink it, you idiot. Why is the rum gone? Now I think about it, one of the reasons Pirates of the Caribbean did so goddamn well is because of how goddamn memeable it was. Who didn't love Why's the Rum Gone? Who didn't quote that the moment their drink was empty at a party? Why is the rum gone? 'Cause you drunk it, Briny. Oh. Look, Jim. How many fingers, fridges, he continued on a pleading tone. I can't keep 'em still, not I. I haven't had a drop this blessed day. That doctor's a fool, I tell you. If I don't have a damn no rum, Jim, I'll have the horrors. I seen 'em on him already. Basically, he'll have withdrawal symptoms. Yay! I'm a man that has lived rough, and I'll raise Cain. Your doctor himself has one glass. One glass wouldn't hurt me. I'll give you a goddamn golden guinea for a noggin, Jim. He was growing more and more excited and alarmed. And this alarmed me for my father, who was very low that day and needed quiet. Besides, I was reassured by the doctor's words, now quoted to me, and rather offended by the offer of a bribe. Take the bribe! Do it! Take him for what he's worth. Take the bribe! I love yelling, why is the something gone in that voice? It's so good! Why is the yarn gone? When I brought it to him, he seized it greedily and drank it out. Oh, wait, no, I want none of your money, said I, but what you owe my father. I'll get you one glass and no more. Raising canes? Gotta get us some chicken, matey. Aye, said he, that's some better. Sure enough, and now, matey, did that doctor say how long I was to lie here in this old berth? A week at least, said I. Thunder! He cried, a week! I can't do that. They'd have the black spot on me by then. The lubbers is gonna about to get the wind of me this blessed moment. Lubbers as couldn't keep what they got, and what to nail what is another's. Is that seamanly behaviour now? Seaman. I want to know. You wanna know what is she? Wait a second. But I'm saving soul. I never wasted good money of mine, nor lost it in either. And I'll trick 'em again. I'm not afraid of 'em. Oh my god, I need to drink. I might not be able to keep up these voices. We'll see, because it is a... We'll do our best with it. But I'm saving soul. I never wasted good money of mine, nor lost it neither, and I'll trick 'em again. I'm not afraid of 'em, I'll shake out another reef, matey, and daddle 'em again. As if he was thus speaking, he had risen from the bed with great difficulty, holding to my shoulder with a grip that almost made me cry out, and moving his legs like so much dead weight. His words, spirited as they were in meaning, contrasted steadily with the weakness of the voice in which they were uttered. He paused. Then he had got into a sitting position on the edge. "That doctor's done me," he murmured. My ears is singing. Lay me back." Before I could do much to help him, he had fallen back again to his former place, where he lay for a while silent. "Jim," he said at length, "you saw that seafaring man today?" "Black dog?" I asked. "Ah! Black dog," he says. "He's a bad un. There's a worse that put him on. Now, if I can't get away nohow, and they tip me, the black spot, mind you, it's my old sea chest they're after. You get on a horse. You can't you? Well then, you get on a horse and go to, well yes, I will. And that eternal Dr. Scott and tell him to pipe all hands, magistrates and sich. And he'll lay 'em aboard at the Admiral Benbow. And all Flint's crew, man and boy, all of 'em that's left. I was first mate, I was. Old Flint's first mate. And I'm the only one that knows the place he gave me at Savannah, when he lay a-dying like as if I was now, you see. But you won't peach unless they get the black spot on me, or unless you see that black dog again, or a seafaring man with one leg. Jim, him above all." "But what's the black spot, Captain?" "Hi, Richter, welcome." "Thank you. My fiance says this is my moomate outfit." Which I'll admit it's a little moomate-ish, but it's my adventure outfit, because we're going on a pirate adventure today. "That summons, mate. I'll tell them if you get that, but you keep your weather eye open, Jim, and I'll share with you equals upon my honour." He wondered a little longer, his voice growing weaker, but soon after I had given him his medicine, which looked like a child, with the remark, "If ever a seaman wants drugs, it's me." There. He fell at last into a heavy swoon-like sleep, in which I left him. What I should have done, had all gone well, I do not know. Probably I should have told the whole story to the doctor, for I was in mortal fear lest the captain should repent of his confession and make an end of me. But as things fell out, my poor father died quite suddenly that evening, which put all other matters on one side. Our natural distress The visitors of the neighbourhood, the arranging of the funeral, and all the work of the inn to be carried on the meanwhile, kept me so busy I had scarcely time to think of the captain, far less be afraid of him. Bless his cotton chops. He got downstairs next morning, and to be sure, and had his meals as usual, though he ate little and had more. I am afraid that his usual supply of rum, for he helped himself out of the bar, scowling and blowing through his nose, and no one dared to cross him. On the night before the funeral, he was drunk as ever, and it was shocking in that house of mourning to hear him singing away at his ugly old sea-song. But weak as he was, we were all in the fear of death for him, and the doctor was suddenly taken up with a case many miles away, and was never near the house after my father's death. I have never said the captain was weak, and indeed he seemed rather to grow weaker than to regain his strength. He clambered up and down the stairs, and went from the parlour to the bar and back again, and sometimes put his nose out of the door to smell the sea, holding on to the wall as he went for support, and breathing hard and fast like a man on a steep mountain. He never particularly addressed me, and it is my belief that he had as good as forgotten his confidences, but his temper was more flighty, and allowing for his bodily weakness, more violent than ever. He had an alarming way of, now, when he was drunk, of drawing his cutlass and laying it bare before him on the table. But with that, he minded people less, and seemed to shut up in his own thoughts rather than wandering. Once, for instance, to our extreme wonder, he piped up to a different air, a kind of country love song that he must have learned in his youth before he had began to follow the sea. So things passed until the day after the funeral, and about 3 o'clock of a bitter, foggy, frosty afternoon, I was standing at the door for a moment, full of sad thoughts about my father, when I saw someone drawing slowly near along the road. He was plainly blind, for he tapped before him with a stick, and wore a great green shade over his eyes and nose. He was hunched, as if with age or weakness, and wore a huge old tattered sea cloak, with a hood that made him appear positively deformed. I never saw in my life a more dreadful looking figure. He stopped a little from the inn, and raising his voice in an old sing-song, addressed the air in front of him. "Will any kind friend inform a poor blind man who has lost the precious sight of his eyes in the gracious defence of his native country, England, and God bless King George, where or in what part of the country he may now be?" "You are at the Admiral Benbow, Black Hill Cove, my good man," said I. "I hear a voice," said he, "a young voice. Will you give me your hand, my kind young friend, and lead me in?" Amber Treasure Island since 3rd grade. I've never actually read it, so I'm very excited to do so. I held up my hand, and the horrible, soft-spoken, eyeless creature gripped it in a moment like a vice. I was so much startled that I struggled to withdraw, but the blind man pulled me close up to him with a single action of his arm. "Now, boy," he said, "take me in to the captain." "Sir," said I, "upon my word, I dare not." "Oh," he sneered, "that's it. Take me in straight, or I'll break your arm. Get damned." "Oh, I'm just a poor blind man. I won't be any harm." "But I'll break your arm if you don't do what I say." he gave it. As he spoke, a wrench that made me cry out. "Sir," said I, "it is for yourself. I mean, the captain is not what he used to be. He sits with drawn cutlass and other gentlemen." "Come now, march," interrupted he, and I never heard a voice so cruel and cold and ugly as that blind man's. It cowed me more than the pain, and I began to obey him at once, walking straight in the door and towards the parlour where our sick old buccaneer was sitting, dazed with rum. Sorry, I was getting whoops. I needed to see what the whoops were. Ooh, Stars and Time is on sale. The blind man clung close to me, holding me in one iron fist and leading me almost more with his weight on me than I could carry. "Lead me straight up to him, and when I'm in view, cry out, 'He's a friend for you, Bill.' If you don't, I'll do this." And with that, he gave me a twitch that I thought would have made me faint between this and that. I was so utterly terrified of the blind beggar, I forgot my terror of the captain, and as I opened the parlour door, cried out the words, as he had ordered, in a trembling voice. "Oh, Lordy." The poor captain raised his eyes at once, and at the one took the rum. Let's try that sentence again. The poor captain raised his eyes, and at one look the rum went out of him and left him staring sober. The expression of his face was not so much of terror as of mortal sickness. He made a movement to rise, but I do not believe he had enough force left in his body. "Now, Bill, sit where you are," said the beggar. "If I can't see, I can hear a finger stirring. Business is business. Now hold out your left hand, boy, and take his left hand by the wrist and bring it near my right. Time to get spotted." We both obeyed to the letter, and I saw him pass something from the hollow of the hand that held his stick to the palm of the captain's, which upon close inspection, closed upon it instantly. "And now that's done," said the blind man, and at the words he suddenly left hold of me, and with incredible accuracy and nimbleness skipped out of the parlour and into the road, whereas I still stood motionless. I could hear his stick go tap, tap, tapping into the distance. It was some time before either I or the captain seemed to gather our senses, but at length, and about at the same moment, I realised his wrist, which I was still holding. He drew his hand and looked sharply into the palm. 10 o'clock, he cried. 6 hours! We'll do them yet. And he sprang to his feet. Even as he did so, he reeled, put his hand to his throat, stood swaying for a moment, and then, with a peculiar sound, fell from his whole height, face foremost to the floor. And he face-planted the floor. I ran to him at once, calling to my mother, but haste was all in vain. The captain had been struck dead by thundering apoplexy. It is a curious thing to understand, for I had certainly never liked the man, though of late I had begun to pity him. But as soon as I saw that he was dead, I burst into a flood of tears. It was the second death I had known, and the sorrow of the first was still fresh in my heart. Bless his cotton socks, bro. He didn't know. He was just like, oh no. The sea chest. So is the black spot like death coming after you? Is that what happened there? I don't know. Or he just had a second stroke because he's a dumbass and didn't take the doctor's advice. Chapter 4. The Sea Chest. I lost no time, of course, in telling my mother all that I knew, and perhaps should have told her long before, and we saw ourselves at once in a difficult and dangerous position. Some of the man's money, if he had any, was certainly due to us, but it was not likely that our captain's shipmates, above all the 2 specimens seen by me, Black Dog and the Blind Beggar, would be inclined to give up their booty in payment of the dead man's debts. The captain's order to mount at once and ride for Dr. Livesley would have left my mother alone and unprotected, which was not to be thought of. Indeed, it seemed impossible for either of us to remain much longer in the house. The fall of the coals in the kitchen grate, the very ticking of the clock, filled us with alarms. The neighbourhood, to our ears, seemed haunted by approaching footsteps, and what between the dead body of the captain on the parlour floor and the thought of that detestable blind beggar hovering near at hand and ready to return, there were moments when, as the saying goes, I jumped in my skin for terror. Something must speedily be resolved upon, and it occurred to us at last to go forth together and seek help in the neighbouring hamlet. No sooner said than done. Bareheaded as we were, we ran out at once, in the gathering evening and the frosty fog. The hamlet lay not many 100 yards away, though out of view on the other side of the next cove, and what greatly encouraged me, it was in an opposite direction from whence the blind man had made his appearance, and whither he had presumably returned. We were not many minutes on the road, though we sometimes stopped to lay hold of each other and hearken, but there was no unusual sound, nothing but the low wash of the ripple and the croaking of the inmates of the woods. It was already candlelight when we reached the hamlet, and I shall never forget how much I was cheered to see the yellow shine in the doors and windows, but that, as it proved, was the best of the help we were likely to get in that quarter, for you would have thought men would have been ashamed of themselves. No soul would consent to return with us to Admiral Benbow. The more we told of our troubles, the more man, woman, and child they clung to the shelter of their houses. The name of Captain Flint, though it was strange to me, was well enough known to some there, and carried a great weight of terror. Some of the men who had been to field work on the far side of the Admiral Benbow remembered, besides, to have seen several strangers on the road, and taking them to be smugglers, who had bolted away, and one at least had seen a little lugger in what we call the Kit's Hole. For that matter, anyone who was a comrade of the captain's was enough to frighten them to death. And the short and the long of the matter was that while we could get several who were willing enough to ride to Dr. Livesley, which lay in another direction, not one would help us defend the inn. They say cowardice is infectious, but then argument is, on the other hand, a great emboldener. And so, when each had said his say, my mother made them a speech. She would not, she declared, lose money that belonged to her fatherless boy. If none of the rest of you dare, she said, Jim and I dare, back we will go, the way we came, and small thanks to you, big hulking chicken-hearted men. We'll have that chest open, if we die for it, and I'll thank you for that bag, Mrs. Crossley, to bring back our lawful money in. Of course, I said I would go with my mother. And of course they all cried at our foolishness, but even then, not a man would go along with us. All they would do was give me a loaded pistol lest we were attacked, and to promise to have horses ready saddled in case we were pursued on our return, while one lad was to ride forward to the doctors in search of armed assistance. My heart was beating finely when we two set forth in the cold night upon this dangerous venture. A full moon was beginning to rise and peered redly through the upper edges of the fog, and this increased our haste, for it was plain before we came forth again that all would be as bright as day, and our departure exposed to the eyes of any watchers. We slipped along the hedges noiselessly and swift, nor did we see or hear anything to increase our terrors till, to our relief, the door of the Admiral Benbow had closed behind us. It's probably just filled with his Yowie collection. The dead man Yowie chest. The dead Yowie chest. The tragic Yowie chest. It's where all the fanfic of Eggman and Dr. Stone is, in the tragic Yowie chest. I slipped the bolt at once, and we stood and panted for a moment in the dark alone, in the house with the dead captain's body. When my mother got a candle in the bar, and holding each other's hand, we advanced into the parlour. He lay as we left him, on his back with his eyes open and one arm stretched out. "Draw down the blind, Jim," whispered my mother. "They might come and watch outside. And now," said she when I had done, "we have to get the key off that. And, who's to touch it? I should like to know." And she gave a kind of sob as she said the words. I went down on my knees at once. On the floor, close to his hand, there was a little round paper, blackened on the side. I could not doubt this was the black spot, and taking it up, I found written on the other side, in a very good, clear hand, this short message: "You have till 10 tonight." "He had till 10, Mother," said I, just as I said it. Our old clock began striking. This sudden noise startled us shockingly, but the news was good, for it was only 6. "Now, Jim," said she said. I'm always getting it the wrong way around. I cannot! "That key." I felt his pockets one after another, a few small coins, a thimble, and some threads and big needles, a piece of pigtailed tobacco bitten away, and at the end, his gully with the crooked handle, a pocket compass, and a tinderbox were all that they contained, and I began to despair. "Perhaps it's round his neck?" suggested my mother. Overcoming a strong repugnance, I tore open his shirt, and at the neck. And there, sure enough, hanging to a bit of tarry string, which I cut with his own gully, we found the key. At this triumph we were filled with hope, and hurried upstairs without delay to the little room where he had slept so long, and where his box had stood since the day of his arrival. It was like any other seaman's chest on the outside, but the initial B burned on the top with the hot iron, and the corners somewhat smashed and broken by a long and rough usage. "Give me the key," said my mother, and though the lock was very stiff, she had turned it and thrown back the lid in a twinkling. A strong smell of tobacco and tar rose from the interior, but nothing was to be seen on the top except a suit of very good clothes, carefully brushed and folded. They had never been worn, my mother said. Under that, the miscellany began: a quadrant, a tin cannikin. I want to know what these are. Let's do some education again. Education. What is a quadrant? Treasure Island. Quadrant. What does that mean? Because I know a quadrant would be like a small... Is a quadrant... what is a quadrant? I just know if I search quadrant, I'm not going to get it, so... Quadrant, an instrument. Later... Oh, so it's like an old sextant. So before the sextant, they used a quadrant apparently. Good to know. And what's a cankin? Cankin. Yeah, we got that. We Google raced. A small can or drinking cup. Okay, so a cankin is... I'm guessing that's where we got, like, tin can from, is a cankin. So it's a drinking vessel of some kind. A small drinking vessel. Several sticks of tobacco, 2 brace of very handsome pistols, a piece of silver, a bar silver, an old Spanish watch, and some other trinkets of little value, and mostly a foreign make. A pair of compasses mounted with brass, and 5 or 6 curious West Indian shells. I have often wondered since why he should have carried about these shells with him. In his wandering, guilty, and haunted life. In the meantime, we had found nothing of any value but the silver and the trinkets, and neither of these were in our way. Underneath there was an old boat cloak, whitened with sea salt on many a harbour bar. My mother pulled it up with impatience, and there lay before us the last thing in the chest, a bundle tied up in oilcloth, and looking like papers, a canvas bag that gave forth at a touch the jingle of gald. I'll show these rogues that I'm an honest woman, said my mother. I'll have my dues, and not a farthing over. Hold Mrs. Crossley's bag. And she began to count over the amount of the captain's score from the sailor's bag onto the one that I was holding. It was a long and difficult business, for the coins were of all countries and sizes, doubloons and Louis d'ors, and guineas and pieces of 8, and I know not what besides, all shaken together. Totally not Googling result next time. You're on! At random, the guineas, too, were about the scarcest, and it was with these only that my mother knew how to make her count. When we were about halfway through, I suddenly put my hand upon her arm, and I had heard in the silent, frosty air a sound that brought my heart to my mouth. The tapping of the blind man's stick upon the frozen road. It drew nearer and nearer, while we sat holding our breath. Then it struck sharp on the inn door, and then we could hear the handle being turned and the bolt rattling as the wretched being tried to enter. And then there was a long time of silence, both within and without. At last, the tapping recommenced, and, to our indescribable joy and gratitude, died slowly away until it ceased to be heard. Mother, said I, take the whole, and let's be going, for I was sure the bolted door must have seemed suspicious, and would bring the whole hornet's nest to our ears, though now thankful I was that I had bolted it, None could tell who had never met the terrible blind man. But my mother, frightened as she was, would not consent to take a fraction more than was due to her, and was obstinately unwilling to contend with less. It was not yet 7, she said, by a long way. She knew her rights, and she would have them. And she was still arguing with me when a little low whistle sounded a good way upon the hill. That was enough, and more than enough for both of us. I'll take what we have, she said, jumping to her feet. And I'll take this to the square court. Count, said I, picking up the oilskin packet. Next moment, we were both groping downstairs, leaving the candle by the empty chest. And the next we had opened the door, we were in full retreat. We had not started a moment too soon. The fog was rapidly dispersing. Already the moon shone quite clear on the high ground on either side, and it was only in the exact bottom of the dell and round the tavern that a thin veil still hung unbroken to conceal the first steps of our escape. Far less than half away to the hamlet, very little beyond the bottom of the hill, we must have come forth into the moonlight. Nor was this all, for the sound of several footsteps running came already to our ears, and as we looked back in their direction, a light tossing to and fro, still rapidly advancing, showed that one of the newcomers carried a lantern. "Oh dear," my mother said suddenly. "Take the money and run. Run on. I'm going to faint." Mother! Mother, please don't faint! Just hold on a little bit. This was certainly the end for both of us, I thought. How I cursed the cowardice of the neighbours, how I blamed my poor mother for her honesty and her greed, for her past foolhardiness and present weakness. We were just at the little bridge, by good fortune, and I helped her, tottering as she was, to the edge of the bank, where, sure enough, she gave a sigh and fell on my shoulder. I do not know how I found the strength to do it all, and I am afraid it was roughly done, but I managed to drag her down the bank and a little way under the arch. Farther I could not move her, for the bridge was too low to let me do more than crawl below it. So there we had to stay, my mother almost entirely exposed, and both of us within earshot of the inn. Da da da! And next time we will be reading Chapter 5, The Last of the Blind Man. Exciting stuff. Oh lordy. Poor old Jimmy. He's got some stuff to deal with. And oh Billy. Shouldn't have been so greedy. But that is all for today. Thank you so much everyone for coming. Thank you everyone in chat. Thank you anyone who lurked. And thank you to anyone who watches the VOD. I highly appreciate you coming and enjoying my content no matter which way you decide to stream it. Already on Chapter 5, one stream? Yes! I specifically picked this because it's a bit of a shorter book. So we should hopefully, fly through this one a bit easier. Also, the chapters are pretty short. So we should be good. These old books seem to have traumatizing children. I mean, is it really good children's entertainment if it's not a little bit traumatizing? We all have something that was a little bit traumatizing in our youth, don't we? I mean, for me, it's like Ren and Stimpy and Courage the Cowardly Dog. They were pretty traumatizing. And specifically for children, but very traumatizing. The art was too awful. Anyway, if you have not already, I would highly appreciate it if you would leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. And if you're on Twitch, if you give the channel a cheeky little follow, that would be lovely. Thank you. If you would, nice progress through. Have a good night. See you next time. Indubitably, I will be back tomorrow I haven't quite decided what I'm streaming tomorrow, so that'll be a surprise for everyone, just including me. Because I'm not going to do D&D, because I wanted a little break from D&D, like, maybe do it every 2 weeks, or something like that. So, tomorrow will be a surprise for everyone. The Cat's Motel episode occurs, the cowardly... yeah, not good, not good. But if you would like to support me in my attempt to make this something of a part-time job, and be able to live off things that I enjoy, then you can do that multiple ways. You can do that via YouTube membership, where you can get emotes, exclusive streams, Discord channel, merch discounts, a free game, and chat commands. There is also the Patreon, where you get short stories, exclusive streams, merch discounts, and free books, and a free game. And the Kofi, where if you like my emotes, you can commission me to draw some emotes for you. You can also get short audiobook short stories if you did enjoy me reading. There's the audiobook short stories there. And the last but not least is the merch store, where you get ebooks, versions, copies of books that I have written, a notebook, a soft pillow, and some new things coming very, very soon. I just need to do some little promotional stuff, and it'll be ready. It'll be ready next week. I'm so excited to launch some new merch next week. I really hope you are looking forward to it. I am looking forward to giving it to you. But until then, I had fun. I hope you had fun. This has been Briny Westbit, Live in the Midnight. Goodbye.